by making edits and so on.
Right. So that's a good point. I think our point is that it's voluntary, right? And so the Encyclopedia Britannica did not emerge as a consequence of people wanting something like that before the internet. And here we have a structure where it's very easy for a large number of people to voluntarily create structures.
I think the structuring is very important. It is voluntary is good, but structuring voluntary.
Yeah, I mean, there's some basic structure that Wales, whatever, and imposed from the beginning. So our claim is not about that there's some kind of anarchical environment. It's anarchy, and you suddenly get spontaneous structure. But I think you also have to grant that there's very minimal, like a platform is created, and with conditional on that platform is our point, that you get these groups of volunteers that then create these knowledge emerges from these interactions and these altruistic impulses. So what we're highlighting is the altruistic impulses and the emergence of accurate information conditional on this platform. It would be like if you said, why do ants behave a particular way and make colonies? Well, they exist on the surface of the earth. There's some constraint that's prior to the ants behaving the way they do. But given that, they make anthills and they make, all kinds of other things. So we would analogize between that platform and the dirt that the ant finds, and then from which it makes its culture. Are we evading your question or answering it?
Not sure, quite sure. I'm not sure why you claim that communality is something that's emerging in social networks. I think there is certain aspects of voluntary activity, but I think there is the structuring that makes it what it is, and not other elements.
Okay, so maybe the communal impulse is necessary but not sufficient.
Yeah, or I would say when we highlighted enormity, communality, and so forth, our intention was not to suggest that these are novel properties of humans or human groups, but rather to suggest these are particular kinds of properties of the social interactions online, which would be hard, if not impossible, to find in the real world.
In natural social
networks. That we couldn't collaborate with thousands or millions of other people 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago.
Part of my problem, I think, is with your structuring of the notion of a friend. It's like, for me, not all my Facebook friends are my friends. And for you to take this simplifying assumption of pictures is, I think, another extreme. I think, I, as a principle, never put any picture of anybody that I know, without...
So we would treat you as friendless. And at the rate you're going, you're going to be...
I'm not too worried about that. I'm probably... that doesn't,
concern you.
But seriously, what I would look at is whom you have communicated with within Facebook.
We would love to do that, and
that's next.
That's next. Yeah.
So wall postings and status replies and things like that.
We totally agree, but
more powerful than a blanket posting to everyone saying, "Hey, come check this out."
We totally agree with that.
But at a first cut, we don't find contagion between the Facebook friends, and we do between the picture friends. And so I think what that means is that it's a muddy pool, but we are getting something out of that we aren't getting out of just including everybody that you're connected to online.
Can you expand on your commentary around the movie top 10 and the marketing and the center versus the periphery?
Right, so we found that Love Actually and Pulp Fiction both spread in our network. So that is, just to be clear, what that means is that if you posted Pulp Fiction on your Facebook page, then your picture friends were statistically much more likely in the next period to post it as well. So it spreads. But the interesting thing that we found was that the location of the contagion was at the center of the network for Pulp Fiction fans, and it was on the periphery of the network for Love Actually fans. And so the idea is that if you wanted to sell Love Actually, and you had in mind that all you need to do is get the most popular person in the network to like my movie, that might not have been so easy because we didn't find any evidence that the Love Actually fans who happened to be at the center of the network were actually influential. It was these fans on the periphery where the contagion seemed to be happening.
Okay, we'll do one more.
Okay, one more.
If you're aware of any studies that look at this gets back to the overwhelm question, that looked at changes in network phenomena within individuals over time, like whether people sort of reach a certain level of interaction in social media, use Facebook as an example, and sustain it, or whether people enter it, get overwhelmed, remove themselves, and become more isolated than they might typically be because they need a recovery time, and then whether they re-engage. Is anybody looking at that?
You mean re-engage with people in real social networks?
Or step back into either to that Facebook environment or whatever the next Facebook will be, 5 years. I'm just curious as to how people are coping with these waves of new ways of interacting with each other.
Okay, so there's going to be variation, from person to person. But Barry Wellman has a nice set of papers that suggests that these online social networks are not a substitute for real-world relationships. They augment real-world relationships.
We talk about that in the book.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm guessing, though, that there are some individuals that get so into the online world, and Second Life in particular, I can imagine there are people that really just want to live there. There are some individuals that probably do eschew their real-world social networks for a time, and then when they get tired of whether the online space that they're living in, when they get tired of that, then maybe they go back to them. But that's not what we find on average. And so an interesting thing going forward, especially because we're interested in looking at personalities and even genetic basis of some of these behaviors, is there some kind of interaction between these online environments and people's fundamental tendencies to be in a certain part of the network that might help to explain when people are going to treat the two of them as substitutes and when they're going to treat them as complements, as one helping the other to be better. Right, possibly, but the underlying the demographics presumably is going to be personality characteristics and biological differences as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.